What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Rachel. I'm a school psychologist. I have been for 2 years, and yeah, I'm gonna start my 3rd year being a school psych in like a month, which is so crazy. And for those of you guys returning, thank you guys for coming back. So for today's video, I'm gonna be doing another Q&A. My last Q&A was like over 2 months ago. I really can't remember when, but it was a while ago. So I thought I would do another one for you guys, and I posted on YouTube a couple days ago just asking you like any questions that you guys have for me. So I'm gonna try and answer as many of them as I can today, and any that I don't get to, like, especially because some of them I might just like go on and on with my answer. So I may do a part 2. And if you guys have more questions as well, like leave them down below in the comments, and then I will make a part 2 for sure. But yeah, I'll see how many I can get through, and I'll try and be prompt with my answers. So the first question was, how did you prepare for the praxis exam during grad school while taking courses? Okay, so I actually took it in the summer, and that's what I really recommend for you. Like, I took it between my 2nd year and 3rd year. So as soon as I finished my 2nd year, I had the summer, and I was just working part-time, so I had plenty of time to study. And then I think I took it the first week of August. I had June and July to study, and then I took it in August. So I recommend doing that. I don't think you can take the praxis any earlier than like your 2nd year, like after you finish your 2nd year. And I don't recommend waiting until your internship, because you're gonna be doing internship full time, and then some people work as well on top of their internship, so you're just gonna have like a lot less time to study. Because even during your internship year, like we had to still do projects, so you know, that's like homework pretty much. So yeah, if you can, I would really recommend just doing it during the summer between 2nd and 3rd year. And how I studied, so I went to ets.org, because that's like the website that you have to register for the exam, and they offer a practice exam that's like, I think under 20 bucks. So I highly recommend that you guys do that. I purchased that interactive exam, and I think it timed you. I'm not sure, but a few of the questions that were on the practice exam were on the real exam. So I found that really helpful just to kind of get a sense of how it was gonna be. And I took it, I think, a few days before I took the actual exam. And then besides that, like the way I actually studied, I just used my notes. I used like PowerPoint slides from class, and then I would go over my readings and like my highlights in different books. So that really helped me out the most. Is the majority of a school psych's role pertaining to special education / testing, or is there a decent amount of counseling involved as well? I've said this before, with my role, I have like the more traditional school psych role. So most of the time now, when you apply for a school psych position, they want you to be doing testing, counseling, recommending interventions, you know, consulting with teachers. So I would say like 80% of school psych jobs now are more comprehensive. So if you are interested in doing like assessment and counseling, school psych is a really good option for you. I'm the most interested in assessment, and I was fortunate enough just to get a job doing assessment. Will I always want to do just assessment for my whole life? Maybe not. Like I might want to do counseling again, because that was one thing I really enjoyed. But I would say if you're interested in a more comprehensive role, majority of school psych positions want you to do like multiple roles, not just assessment. So yeah, just keep that in mind. What is the hardest part of your job and your favorite part of being a school psych? So best and worst, pretty much, parts of the job. So I guess I'll do 2 for the best part. So one is just like the school schedule. I've always liked the school schedule. Like I just work from 8 to 2:45, so I'm out pretty early, and I avoid rush hour traffic. And I love just like having summer vacation off, and you know, you get February vacation, April vacation. Not all states do like a full February break, but Massachusetts does. And yeah, I just really like the schedule. Like that's just so convenient for me. And then another thing that I really like is that I'm just able to like build my own schedule. Like there's nobody that's really dictating every move and like decision I make. I can pretty much do what I want during the day. I can test when I want. The only thing that's like decided for me is when there's like a meeting, but those are decided a couple months in advance, so like I work around those. But yeah, it's really nice. I get to just drive to a school, do the testing, or go to a meeting, or you know, gather some information from a teacher, and I just write everything down in my Google Calendar, and if somebody wants to find me, they can just look in my Google Calendar to see where I'm at. And then the worst part or hardest part of my job, and again, this just pertains to me doing assessments, I would just say dealing with deadlines, because you have to follow like special ed deadlines. So we have 30 days to do the testing, and then 45 days we have to meet and decide eligibility. So that can be stressful during like certain times of the year when we're getting more evaluations. And then just like figuring out and planning around when to pull students. And this goes for, I feel like, everybody, especially if you're counseling students. You want to try and find a time to either counsel them or if you're testing them. And you know, I try and go around like what the teacher prefers, but it can be hard like if the teacher doesn't want you to pull them out, or only for like 20 minutes, because you have to pull them out for at least an hour to do an evaluation. So just like figuring out the student schedule and figuring out like when you can get a space at that school, when the teacher wants you to pull them, etc., and like what works for you. So planning can sometimes be a little stressful. So the next question says, do you often work well over 8 hours a day? No. Right now I work 8 to 2:45, so that's what, like 7 hours pretty much. And the only time I'll ever stay after school to like keep working is when we're doing professional development. So we probably do like at least once a month of professional development, because that's what my school district requires. Like we have to get, I think by the end of the year, we have to do 22 hours of PD. So half of my hours are me just meeting with the other school psychs, and we'll kind of just like do that once a month. The other half of those PD hours, we get like a whole slew of options to choose from. So one year I did like a mindfulness PD that was like actually like 18 hours because it was an online thing. So I really enjoyed that, and I actually got more hours than I needed to. But that's like the only time I really ever work over 8 hours a day is when I'm doing PD. But other than that, like just doing assessments, I'm really not bringing much home, which is something I also really like about the job. So the next question says, how often do you deal with difficult parents? I guess the nice thing is with just doing assessments right now, like I still have contact with parents to an extent. So like I'll send out parent rating scales, or sometimes parents want me to call them and we'll do like a parent interview just to get a better sense of their child. And then I see the parent again at the meeting where we're discussing whether or not the student's eligible for special education services. I will say I've had, and this is like everybody has these, like you have some contentious meetings and then you have like some amazing meetings. When they are contentious and like say the parent like doesn't agree with the school's decision or like what we're recommending, I always remind myself that, you know, sometimes the parent, even though they know their child best, sometimes they don't understand like the purpose of special education. And I was just trying to tell myself it's nothing personal. Like I've never had a parent say anything really mean to me, but I figure that might happen at some point in my career. So just telling myself in my head, like, you know, it's not personally about me. They're just frustrated at the process or like what the school's determination is. The nice thing is too, at my district, I don't run the meetings. So we have a facilitator at every single school and they run the meetings. So if I'm ever feeling like, you know, nervous, I'm more of a quiet person. So it's kind of good that I'm not the leader of a meeting and the facilitator can kind of help to take over, and I'm there for support. Okay, next question. What happens after going through the testing stage with a student, such as the placement process and helping them in school? Okay, so pretty much, I'm just gonna like make this really short. rundown, but we test the student based on whatever the referral concerns are, whether they're academic, behavior, emotional. You know, we'll gather multiple modes of assessment, and a lot of times there's many evaluators. Like you could have me doing a psych, somebody else doing academic, a counselor doing a home developmental history, an OT doing occupational therapy assessment, PT, speech language, and then we all write up our reports after we work with the student. Once the IEP meeting comes, or the eligibility meeting, we all report out our findings, and then we determine whether or not the student requires special ed services and under like what disability category would best suit them. And then if they are eligible, the school has 10 days, 10 school days, I think, to write up the IEP, and then they send it to the parent. The parent signs it if they agree with it, or if they reject certain parts of it, they can let the school know that too. And then once everything is okayed by the parent, then the services start right away. And then if a student isn't eligible, a lot of times we'll recommend like a 504 plan if they still need some level of support, but just not a significant degree that would require like special ed. So we'll recommend either a 504 or you know, any appropriate like general ed supports that just the teacher can do with them. Tips on paying for grad school. Okay, so I will say I don't have the best advice for this because my parents thankfully paid for my grad school, and I will say my grad school was a lot cheaper than most. Like I went to Rhode Island College. I know like a lot of schools are like $50,000 a year. I think my grad school was under $10,000 a year. Like it was a lot cheaper, and I didn't live there. I lived at home during grad school because it was so close by. So I don't have the best advice for this, but I still worked part-time my first couple years of grad school. So I would work like during the day, and then we would have nighttime classes from like 4 to 10 at night. A couple students in my class ended up doing a graduate assistantship. So I know one did it full-time, and that paid full for her tuition. And then another one of my friends, she did it part-time, and it pays half your tuition. So doing a graduate assistantship, you can do it either like for your program, or you can even be like a grad assistant for another professor of another program, like a counseling program. So I really recommend those because I know those are good for like helping you pay with tuition. And I would also say like don't try and, you know, if you have a couple options near you, like Rick was the only option actually in Rhode Island, but it's such a good program and it's NASP approved. I would say look around, and you don't have to go to like the most expensive college. As long as it's accredited by NASP, then you're fine. So honestly, I would just say whichever one you get along better with the professors, and as long as it's NASP approved, try and go to like the cheaper one. Okay, and then this one kind of relates. It says, how difficult do you think it would be to work full time while going to grad school? I would say it'd be pretty difficult to work full time. Like, it might be more possible the first year when you're just doing classes, but I knew a couple people in my class that were full-time workers, and they definitely put off like the homework and the readings to the last minute. And a lot of people in my class wouldn't even do the readings, you know? And I thought those were so helpful because it was such a learning curve when you first get to grad school. I wanted to like actually read all the content that the professors were suggesting. So you probably won't have as much time to study and do homework if you're working full time, but obviously it's understandable if you really need to work because, you know, grad school most of the time isn't free for many people, so it's possible, but just know that it will be more stressful. I'm doing okay on time, so I'm gonna get through a couple more. Would you recommend going to an online school psych program that is not NASP approved? No. I don't know if there are online programs that are accredited, but definitely go to an accredited program, whether or not it's online. Because when you get hired, like when you're going to job interviews, most of the time when you go on interviews, they look for which college you went to just to make sure that it was accredited by NASP. Because it just doesn't look good if your program isn't, to be honest. It doesn't meet the standards that they're looking for. When I was searching for jobs like 2 years ago, on School Spring, that's one of the requirements a lot of times, is that you graduated from a NASP accredited program. So I would definitely try and go to an accredited one if you can. Okay, what amount of stats do you use? What is the realistic use of stats in day-to-day assessments? Literally none. Like the stats class that I took in undergrad was all like, that's all not relevant to what I do now. I did have to take a stats class in grad school, but that one was more actually related to assessment. Like we learned about validity, reliability, all that stuff. But do you actually have to figure out like stats problems? No. All you need to know is simple addition and subtraction to like actually get the raw scores when you're doing testing. And then you have to have like an understanding of standard scores, percentile ranks, and confidence intervals. So make sure you know those three. Like a standard score of 100, that is like the solid average range, that's like the mean. But yeah, that's pretty much all you have to know. No greater stats than that. Okay, and last question I'll do, how many hours did you work on homework each week? Also, what was the majority of your homework like/about? Okay, so this is hard because I don't remember like exactly, because I did grad school from 2016 to 2019, but I remember the biggest thing that we had to do was readings. Like every class, we had to read like 3 to 4 chapters for the next one, or like 2 to 4. So you do have a lot of reading for every class, and I highly, highly recommend doing the readings, especially if it's for like a class that's really focused on school psych. So if it's like a statistics class, maybe you don't have to do all the readings, but when it's more concentrated on school psych things like interventions and assessment, definitely do the readings. It'll probably take you like an hour and a half each day, and that would be like Monday through Friday. And then we're given more like projects, so you're given like a larger project in every class that's due towards the end of the semester. And I would always start working on those like weeks in advance, because that's like one of the biggest like contributors of your grade besides exams. But other than that, we weren't given like minor homework, at least not from what I remember. It was mostly just like a mid-semester smaller project and then an end of semester project or presentation. So definitely work on those early when you have the opportunity, because a lot of people try and save those for last minute, but then you also want to study for exams by the end of the semester and not work on projects. Okay, so I think I answered a lot of questions in this video. If you guys have more questions, I would be happy to do a Q&A part 2. So leave your questions down below, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.
I watch you as you drive. Do you know I'm looking? And I can't help but smile. Do you know how much I love you? You put my favorite song on.